Welcome to this session on digital marketing fundamentals. Today, we're going to cover some of the most essential building blocks for establishing your online presence, starting with a quick look at AI chat practice, then diving deep into the world of domain names and web hosting. These are core concepts that everything else in digital marketing builds upon. So let's get started. Before jumping into new content, the instructor checked in on how students did with their AI chat practice from the previous session. Some students were confused about how to get started, and that's completely normal. The key thing to understand is that the AI chat tool has two levels, a basic level and a pro level. On the free plan, you get 2 prompts to work with. On the premium plan, you get 4 prompts, and using all 4 gives you the best possible results.
One important clarification came up about the Pro Prompt PDF that was shared. Students asked whether they needed to download it. The answer is no. You don't download it as a file. Instead, you go to the link, copy the prompt text, and paste it directly into your AI chat session. You can also save it into a Google Docs file for easy reuse later. The instructor emphasized the importance of staying connected. If you have any confusion or questions, the first step is to post in the group chat. If you don't get a quick response there, you can directly message the instructor on WhatsApp. The instructor also reminded everyone that understanding these concepts is only half the battle. The real value comes from practicing them hands-on. Don't skip the practice sessions.
The instructor laid out a clear plan for the session. Today is almost entirely practical. The goal is not to rush through every subtopic, but to understand the fundamentals deeply and then immediately implement them. Domain and hosting is described as the core topic of the entire digital marketing course. Everything else, SEO, website creation, content marketing, is built on top of this foundation. The instructor planned to spend 3 to 4 sessions on this topic in total.
Let's get clear on what a domain name actually is. Think of a domain name as your online identity. It's the address people type into a browser to find you. But a domain name alone isn't enough. You also need web hosting, which is the server where your actual website files and content are stored. The domain tells people where to go, and the hosting is what actually serves the content when they get there. You need both for a live, functional website. To make this even clearer, a domain name is like your home address, and hosting is like the actual house. You can own an address, but without a house on that land, there's nothing for visitors to see. Both are typically purchased on an annual basis, though hosting can also be billed monthly. The instructor demonstrated this using a real example on the Kylus Cloud hosting platform. The instructor recommended a specific hosting platform called Kylus Cloud. The reason for this recommendation isn't arbitrary. The instructor has personally used this platform for 1.5 to 2 years, currently hosting 4 active domains on it. The key selling point is the quality of customer support. When you're learning and something breaks, having responsive support means you don't get stuck. For non-technical learners especially, good support is critical. When it comes to choosing a hosting plan, the instructor broke it down simply. The basic plan is great if you're just practicing and learning. It's affordable and gets the job done for one website. The medium plan is where you want to be if you're planning to run multiple websites, host your company site, build your personal brand, and especially if you're thinking about e-commerce. The instructor personally uses the medium plan and runs 4 domains on it simultaneously. There's a specific warning worth highlighting here. If you're planning to do e-commerce, meaning selling products online through your website, do not go with the basic plan. The instructor was very direct about this because they've seen it cause problems. E-commerce websites need more resources and reliability, so the medium plan is the minimum you should consider for that use case. The instructor walked through the entire purchase process live on screen. Here's the full step-by-step flow. You start by going to Kylus Cloud and logging in or creating a new account. Then you navigate to the domain section, type in the domain name you want, and search for it. If it's available, you add it to your cart. If it's taken, you modify the name slightly until you find one that works. Then you choose your hosting plan, continue to checkout, fill in your account details, agree to the terms, and finally apply any discount code before completing payment.
Once payment is complete, the process moves quickly. You'll receive a confirmation email, and your hosting account unlocks almost immediately. From there, you log into your dashboard and access something called cPanel. That's the control panel where you'll manage your website. The very next step after that is connecting your domain to your hosting using what are called name servers, which we'll cover shortly.
The instructor had arranged special discount codes for students. When you reach the checkout page, you enter the discount code in capital letters. This is important. It must be uppercase. The discount applies specifically to hosting plans, giving you 10% off. However, the domain name itself does not get a discount. Domain pricing is set at market rate and is non-negotiable.
There's also a free .np domain available through a service called Mercantile, but that requires separate setup, which the instructor planned to cover in a tutorial video. Some students already had a domain name from a previous purchase. For those students, the process is simpler. You only need to buy hosting. You go directly to the web hosting section on Kylus Cloud, choose your plan, click Order Now, and when the system asks for a domain name, you select the Use a Domain option and enter the domain you already own. After purchasing, you'll get name server details from Kylus Cloud, and you'll need to update your DNS settings at wherever you originally registered your domain. Here's the technical connection that makes it all work. Your domain registrar, wherever you bought your domain, has a DNS settings panel. You go there and replace the existing name servers with the ones provided by Kylus Cloud. Once that update propagates, which can take a few hours, your domain will point to your Kylus hosting, and your website will go live. The instructor demonstrated this process with their own 4 active domains. A question came up about domain extensions, specifically the difference between .com and .com.np. This is an important distinction. .com is a commercial top-level domain that is recognized worldwide. It must be purchased. There's no free version. .np is a country code top-level domain specific to Nepal, and the .np extension is actually available for free through a service called Mercantile, which is Nepal's domain registrar. If you're targeting a global audience, go with .com. If you're a Nepal lobbyist, the free .np is a valid option. Choosing the right domain name is more strategic than most beginners realize. The instructor gave clear guidance here. If you have a business, use the business name, something that reflects what you do, like Adventure Destiny Nepal for a travel company. If you're building a personal brand, use your own name. If you're a freelancer or professional, use something related to your profession or niche. The critical point is this: websites get better Google rankings the older they are, so pick a name you plan to stick with for the long term. Don't just pick something random for practice. The instructor made a really practical point here that's worth emphasizing. People don't search Google for your personal name. They search for what they need. Someone looking for a travel company will type something like best travel company in Nepal, not your first name. So if your domain name reflects your profession or business category, it has a much better chance of appearing in those searches. This is the connection between domain naming and SEO strategy. A student asked a great question. Do you actually need a website to promote your business online? The answer depends on what you're trying to do. If you're promoting through Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok, posting videos and reaching followers, you don't necessarily need a website for that. That's social media marketing, and it works on its own. But if you want your business to appear when someone searches on Google, then yes, you absolutely need a website. That's what SEO is all about, and that's the focus of this course. One student mentioned they had been using free hosting for their existing domain. The instructor addressed this directly. Free hosting comes with serious limitations. It often shows on not secure wording in browsers, which immediately damages your credibility. It's prone to glitches and downtime, and when something breaks, there's no support to help you fix it. For anything you're serious about, whether it's a personal brand, a business website, or an SEO project, paid hosting is the way to go. The small monthly cost is worth it for the stability and support alone. The instructor briefly mentioned Google Blogger as a supplementary tool worth knowing about. Blogger.com is Google's free blogging platform, and it's actually quite useful for practicing content indexing on Google, meaning getting your content to appear in Google search results. The instructor personally has around 29 to 30 Blogger accounts from past projects. While it's a great practice tool, it's not a replacement for a proper self-hosted website with your own domain and hosting. Before wrapping up, the instructor gave everyone a clear set of next steps. Your homework is to get your domain and hosting purchased and set up before the next session. Choose your domain name thoughtfully. Make it relevant to your business, profession, or personal brand. Pick the right hosting plan for your needs. Apply the discount code in capital letters at checkout. And once you're in, explore your dashboard and cPanel. If you run into any issues, the group chat and direct WhatsApp messaging are both available. Starting from the next session, the class moves into actually building websites, so being ready with your domain and hosting is essential. So we've established that building a website in this phase involves 2 foundational pieces you absolutely need to understand before anything else: domain and hosting. These aren't just technical buzzwords. They are the 2 things that make your website actually exist and be findable on the internet. Let's break each one down clearly. A domain is simply the name, the address that people type into their browser to find you. When someone types google.com or facebook.com, that entire thing is the domain name. As one of the students correctly pointed out, it's just the website's name. Hosting, on the other hand, is the space. Think of it as the actual house where everything lives. Your text, images, videos, pop-ups, all of that needs to be stored somewhere. That somewhere is your hosting. Without hosting, even if you have a domain, nobody can see your website. Let's zoom into what a domain name actually is. When you type codeit.com into a browser, the word codeit is your domain name, your identity. The .com part is called the extension, or top-level domain. There are many extensions, .com, .np, .org, and so on. And here's a key rule. Every domain is completely unique. Once someone registers it, that exact name is taken. Domains can be personal or business-based. You could register your own name, like bishalrai.com, or sophia.com, or a business name, like brotechnology.com. The idea is that your domain represents your identity on the internet, just like your name represents you in real life. Here's something interesting about why domain names even exist. Behind every website, there's actually a numerical IP address, something like 142.250.80.46. That's what computers use to find each other. But humans can't easily memorize strings of numbers, so domain names were created as a simplified, human-friendly layer on top. You type a name, the system finds the number for you. What if your preferred domain name is already taken? This is very common. You have a few options. You can rearrange the words. Instead of Bishal Rai, try Rai Bishal. You can add a number, but be careful. Too many numbers hurt your search engine ranking. Or you can try a different extension. The key tip is keep it short, easy to remember, and avoid dashes and long number strings. The SEO angle here is important. Search engines like Google rank domain names with real words much better than names stuffed with numbers. So if your exact name is taken, rearranging the words is a much better strategy than adding a bunch of numbers to the end.
Here's the analogy that makes this click for everyone. Think of your domain as your home address. It's how people find you. And think of hosting as your actual house. It's where everything you own is kept. Your address tells people where to go. Your house holds everything they'll see when they arrive. You need both. An address with no house means nothing is there. A house with no address means no one can find it.
Hosting is essentially rented server space. A hosting company owns massive data centers full of servers, powerful computers that stay online 24/7. You rent a portion of that server to store your website's files. You could technically buy your own server and host everything yourself, but the cost is extremely high. That's why almost everyone rents hosting from a provider. It's affordable, reliable, and managed for you. Let's put domain and hosting side by side so the differences are crystal clear. A domain is your address, unique worldwide, one name per registration. Hosting is your storage space. And here's something important. One hosting plan can actually host multiple domains, so you might have 4 or 5 websites all running on a single hosting account. Also, buying both from the same provider saves you the technical headache of connecting them manually. Now let's walk through how you actually register a domain. You go to a provider, in this case Kailash Cloud is recommended. You type your desired domain name in their search bar. If it's available, you add it to cart. If it's taken, you try variations as we discussed. Then you create an account and complete the purchase. The whole process is straightforward, and there's a recorded guide available for non-technical users to follow along step by step. One important heads up, if you buy your domain from one provider and you're hosting from another, you'll need to update what's called the name server or DNS settings to connect them. This is a technical step, but it's manageable. If you run into it, just reach out and you'll get guided through it. Buying both together simply skips that step entirely. Before you go and register your domain, here are the best practices to follow. Keep it short, use your real name or your brand name, stick to words rather than numbers. Numbers hurt your SEO. Choose a clean extension, like .com or .com.np. Avoid dashes in your domain name, and avoid packing in a lot of numbers. A clean, memorable domain not only helps visitors find you, it also helps search engines rank you better. When it comes to hosting plans, you typically have tiered options. A basic plan handles one website. A medium plan, which is what most students in this course need, can host 4 to 5 websites, and costs roughly around 4,000 rupees per year when you apply available discounts. An advanced plan handles even more. The key thing to understand is that one hosting plan can serve multiple domain names. You buy the hosting once, then add domains to it as you need them. There's an important distinction between local and live hosting. Local hosting means your website runs only on your own computer. It's great for practicing and learning the process, but nobody else on the internet can see it. Live hosting means your site is on a real server, connected to a domain, and visible to anyone in the world. For this course, you'll start locally to learn, but the goal is always to go live with a real domain and hosting.
Now, let's talk about WordPress, the platform we'll be using to build websites throughout this course. WordPress is essentially a website building software, and more formally, it's called a content management system, or CMS. The really powerful thing about it is that you don't need to know how to code. You can build beautiful, professional websites using a simple drag-and-drop interface. And it's incredibly popular. About 40% of all live websites on the internet are built using WordPress.
Think about that for a moment. Nearly half of everything you browse on the internet is running on WordPress. That's a massive ecosystem, which means there's incredible community support, thousands of tools, and a huge job market for people who know how to use it.
WordPress is what's called open source software. That's a really important concept. Open source means that anyone in the world can use it and anyone can modify it. It's not locked down by a single company. There are no licensing fees to use the core software. This is why it's become so widely adopted. Developers around the world contribute to it, build plugins for it, and create themes for it, creating a massive ecosystem of tools you can tap into. Here's something that trips up a lot of beginners. There are actually two different versions of WordPress. WordPress.com is the commercial version, where you pay for hosting and features directly through WordPress. WordPress.org, on the other hand, is the open-source self-hosted version. That's the one we'll be using throughout this course. With .org, the software itself is completely free. You download it and run it on your own hosting. This gives you full control and full customization.
And here's the great news for everyone in this course. All of our practical work will be done using the free route. The goal is to get you hands-on experience without any financial barrier. Only once you're comfortable and want to take things further would you consider upgrading to any paid tools.
When choosing a domain name, there are some clear guidelines that will serve you well. The most important thing is to keep it short and memorable, ideally 2 to 3 words at most. Avoid putting hyphens in your domain name because people tend to forget them when typing. Similarly, avoid mixing in numbers because that creates confusion about whether to spell them out or use digits. The simpler and cleaner your domain name, the easier it is for visitors to find you and remember you.
Here's a practical illustration. A name like mydigitalstudio.com is clean, short, and easy to say out loud. Compare that to something like my-digital-studio-123.com. The hyphens and numbers make it clunky. When someone hears your domain name spoken aloud, they should be able to type it correctly the first time without any guessing.
This is a really critical point that students often overlook. Once you register a domain name, you cannot change it. You're locked into that name for the duration of your registration period, which is typically 1 year. After it expires, you can choose not to renew it and register a completely different domain, but you cannot simply edit or rename the one you already have. This is why it's so important to think carefully and follow those best practices before you click that purchase button.
A common question that comes up is whether free domains are actually secure. The short answer is yes, domains themselves are generally secure. When you register a domain, the DNS settings are under your control through your registrar's panel. When you see that padlock icon in the browser address bar, it means the connection to that site is encrypted. However, it's important to understand that security isn't just about the domain. It also depends on how you manage your website and what tools you install on it. Here's where things can go wrong, and this is a real-world example that was actually discussed. If students or users install spam plugins or malicious tools on a shared hosting environment, much as the domain you register.
There was an interesting discussion about whether the Institute could provide shared hosting space for students during the training period. The idea has real merit. It removes the financial barrier and lets everyone focus on learning. But there's a genuine challenge. In a shared environment, if even a few students install spam plugins or misuse tools, it creates problems for the entire server. This has actually happened in previous batches, where a small number of students caused server issues that affected everyone.
One practical solution that was discussed and actually used in previous sessions is giving each student their own subdomain under the Institute's main domain. So instead of every student buying their own hosting and domain, they'd get something like theirname.codit.com.np. In a previous session, around 25 students were each given their own subdomain this way. It's a cost-effective approach that still gives everyone a real, hands-on WordPress environment to practice in.
However, even the subdomain approach had its issues. In a previous batch, a few students installed spam plugins, which caused DNS and name server problems for the entire shared environment. The server had to be cleaned and restored.
This is a reminder that even a learning environment needs proper monitoring and guidelines around what tools students are allowed to install.
A practical question that came up is how much server storage space would actually be needed if the institute hosted all students. The estimate is quite manageable. Each student's site would typically have only a handful of files, mostly text documents and some images, which might total somewhere between 100 megabytes and 200 megabytes per student. For an entire class, roughly 2 to 3 gigabytes of total storage would be more than enough to accommodate everyone comfortably. The instructor's recommended approach is clear. Try the free route first. If the institute can arrange shared or subdomain hosting for the training period, that's ideal. But if that's not possible, students should treat the cost of a basic hosting plan as a small investment in their own education. Start with the most affordable plan available. You don't need anything large at this stage. As your skills grow and you're ready to launch real projects, you can then upgrade to a more robust plan.
So let's talk about what a website actually is. A website is simply a collection of web pages that are available on the internet under a single domain name. Think of a platform like Code IT. It has a home page, an all courses page, upcoming classes, testimonials, mentors, recorded classes, and more. All of those individual pages live under one domain. Together, that entire collection is what we call a website.
A real-world example makes this crystal clear. The Code IT platform has many different pages: home, all courses, upcoming classes, testimonials, mentors, recorded classes, and every single one of those pages lives under the same domain name. That's exactly what defines a website: multiple pages, one domain.
One of the most important distinctions to understand is that a domain name and web hosting are two completely separate things. A domain name is simply a unique human-readable name, like google.com, that points to an IP address. Web hosting, on the other hand, is the actual storage space on a server where your website's files and pages are stored. Think of the domain as the address of a house, and web hosting as the land or plot where the house actually sits.
This analogy really helps it click. The domain name is like the address on a street sign. It tells people where to find you. But the web hosting is the actual physical space, the land, where your house, your website, is built and lives. You need both for a website to work, but they are fundamentally different things.
So why do we even need domain names? Computers don't understand names, they only understand numbers, specifically IP addresses. In the early days of the internet, you had to remember numerical IP addresses to visit websites. That's not practical for anyone. So the Domain Name System, or DNS, was created to convert human-readable names like google.com into the numerical IP address that the server actually uses. The domain name is just a friendly label. Underneath it, everything still runs on IP addresses. Domain extensions, also called top-level domains or TLDs, tell you something about the nature and origin of a website. .com is the most common and is intended for commercial use. Its root servers are based in California and distributed worldwide. .org is for organizations. .np is Nepal's country code TLD, and extensions like .edu.np or .gov.np are regional domains managed within Nepal, specifically through Mercantile and NIDC for government domains. These regional domains are controlled by local registrars, not global ones. It's worth highlighting that Nepal's .np domain has its own dedicated infrastructure. The .np TLD is operated through Mercantile, while government-specific domains like .gov.np fall under NIDC, which is a Nepal government body. These are completely separate servers from the global .com infrastructure. They are truly regional and nationally managed. Here's something that surprises many people. www.google.com and just google.com are technically different things. The www part is actually a subdomain. Under a single domain, you can have multiple subdomains, each pointing to different servers or services. For example, Google uses mail.google.com for Gmail and drive.google.com for Drive. All of these are controlled through your domain's DNS settings, specifically through what are called name servers. Web hosting comes in several types, each suited to different needs. Shared hosting, sometimes called rental hosting, means multiple websites share the resources of one physical server. It's affordable and great for beginners. Dedicated hosting gives you an entire server just for your website, offering full control but at a higher cost. Cloud hosting distributes your site across multiple servers, making it highly scalable. The good news is that many platforms let you register your domain and set up hosting all in one place. For most beginners, shared hosting is the recommended starting point. It's cost-effective and easy to manage. As your website grows in traffic and complexity, you can move to cloud or dedicated hosting.
The key takeaway is that hosting is essentially renting space on someone else's powerful computer, a server, so that your website's files are accessible on the internet at all times. WordPress is one of the most widely used tools for building websites. It's a content management system, a piece of software that gives you a platform to create, manage, and publish web pages without needing to write everything from scratch. One student described it well. WordPress is like the materials you use to build a house. The website is the house itself, and web hosting is the land or space where the house stands. That analogy is spot on. WordPress works for both developers who want to write custom code and non-technical users who prefer visual builders. When choosing a domain name, keep it short, ideally 2 to 3 words maximum. It should be easy to remember and easy to spell. You can use your own personal name, a brand name, or something that reflects your industry. The critical thing to understand is that once you register a domain, you cannot change that name. You can let it expire after a year and register a different one, but you cannot rename an existing domain, so choose carefully from the start. If your ideal name is taken, try adding words before or after it. Most web hosting providers offer tiered plans, typically Basic, Medium, and Pro. The right plan depends on the size and needs of your website. A basic plan with 1 to 2 gigabytes of storage might be enough for a personal portfolio or beginner project. As your content grows, more images, videos, and pages, you'll need more storage and bandwidth. The instructor recommends discussing your specific domain and hosting choices in the class WhatsApp group, where you can get personalized guidance before making a purchase decision. Building on what we've covered about websites, let's now dig into why domain and hosting are so critical in digital marketing. The core argument is straightforward. When someone searches for anything online, what shows up in the results is a website URL. If you don't have a domain and hosting set up, you simply don't have a proper digital presence. No website means no real business in the online world. This is a strong statement, but it's the perspective of a digital marketer. Without a website, you're missing the foundation: real-time data, credibility, and a space you fully own and control. There's an important distinction to understand here. Social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, are powerful for generating views and awareness, but a website is where the real business happens. It gives you leads, it enables payments, and it allows automation. Think of social media as the top of your funnel, and your website as where conversions actually occur. This is where landing pages come in, a concept we'll explore in upcoming sessions. Your website's landing page is where you collect exactly the customer information you defined in your buyer persona. It's all connected. Here's a real-world lesson that many business owners have learned the hard way. When Facebook went down or when accounts got hacked, businesses that relied solely on social media were completely stuck. Their entire operation came to a halt. But those who had a website, their website kept running. Your website is your backup, your own property that no platform can take from you. This isn't hypothetical. Multiple clients experienced exactly this frustration. Their Facebook was blocked and they felt their business was dead. The lesson? Never build your entire business on a platform you don't own. Here's one of the most compelling reasons to have a website. Google traffic is essentially free money. When your website ranks on Google's first page through SEO, search engine optimization, you get a continuous stream of visitors without paying for ads. Every visitor who lands on your site is a potential lead or customer. And critically, only a website can rank on Google. Social media profiles simply don't work the same way. You have 2 paths to get on Google's first page: organic SEO, which takes time but is free and sustainable, or Google Ads, which delivers instant visibility but at a cost. Either way, you need a website as your foundation. Let's summarize the key reasons to get domain and hosting. First, real-time data. You can track exactly what's happening on your site and make informed decisions about what content to publish next. Second, personal branding. In today's world, not having a website looks strange and unprofessional. Third, for anyone planning a startup or long-term digital business, a website isn't optional, it's foundational. Personal branding is particularly important here. If someone looks you up and finds no website, it raises doubts. And for those planning to grow a serious business or startup after completing this course, a website with proper domain and hosting isn't just recommended, it's necessary. So where do you actually buy domain and hosting? The simplest approach is to search best hosting companies in Nepal on Google. What you'll notice is that the companies appearing at the top have done their own SEO, which is a great real-world example of SEO working in practice. There are many hosting providers in Nepal at various price points, so it's worth comparing before you buy. When you visit a hosting provider, you'll typically see 3 tiers of web hosting plans: Basic, Medium, and Pro. The choice depends entirely on your current goal. If you're just here to practice and learn, the Basic plan is perfectly fine and keeps costs low. If you're thinking long-term and planning to grow a real business, the Medium plan gives you more room to scale. The Pro plan is for large, established operations. For most students in this course, the Basic plan is the right starting point. It lets you practice everything we'll cover without a major investment. If you already know you're building something long-term, jump straight to Medium. Let's walk through the actual purchase process step by step. First, find a hosting provider and select your plan. Then choose your domain name. Next, select how you want to be billed. Yearly is usually cheaper. Create your account, apply any promo code you have for a discount, then complete checkout. After payment, you'll receive a confirmation email with all your access details and URLs. That confirmation email is important. Save it. It contains your order confirmation, domain registration details, payment receipt, and the URLs you'll need to access your hosting control panel, which is called cPanel. Once your purchase is complete and activated, which usually happens very quickly, you'll get access to cPanel, your hosting control panel. This is your command center for everything: managing files, setting up emails, databases, and installing your website. For now, just familiarize yourself with it. Don't click around and make changes until you understand what each section does.
You'll see your hosting service and your domain listed separately in the dashboard. And remember, hosting is typically purchased for 1 year at a time and needs to be renewed. If you have an existing plan with another provider, you can absolutely renew it. Just contact them directly. Let's zoom out and look at the big picture of digital marketing. At its core, digital marketing simply means using digital platforms to do marketing. It's not just about posting on social media. It's a strategic discipline. The major components include SEO, which gets your website ranking organically on Google, paid advertising through Google Ads, social media marketing, website and landing pages, email automation, and content marketing. All of these work together. Within the search marketing space specifically, SEO and Google Ads are 2 sides of the same coin. SEO is organic. It takes time to build, but delivers free, sustained traffic. Google Ads is paid. You can launch a campaign today and appear on page 1 immediately, but you pay for every click. Both are powerful, and a complete digital marketing strategy uses both. Now, let's talk about the different types of web hosting you'll encounter. There are mainly 4 types: shared hosting, VPS hosting, dedicated hosting, and cloud hosting. Each one serves a different purpose depending on your needs and budget. Understanding these differences helps you make a smart decision right from the start. Shared hosting is exactly what it sounds like. Multiple websites share the same server resources. Because the cost is split among many users, it's the most affordable option. For anyone just starting out, shared hosting gives you the most value for the least money. It's the recommended starting point. VPS stands for Virtual Private Server. Think of it as having your own private section of a larger server. It's like setting up your own server box, just virtually. You get more control and better performance, but it also costs significantly more. It's a step up from shared hosting when your traffic and needs grow. Dedicated hosting means an entire physical server is reserved exclusively for you. Nobody else shares it. This gives you maximum performance and full control. It's like having your own server box installed just for your use. The trade-off is that it's the most expensive option, so it's best suited for large-scale operations. So which hosting should you go with? The answer really depends on where you are right now. If you're just getting started and working with a limited budget, shared hosting is absolutely the right choice. It handles most beginner and intermediate needs without breaking the bank. You can always upgrade later as your site grows. And here's a great practical detail. On a medium-tier shared hosting plan, you can typically host up to 10 websites comfortably. That means you could run your personal brand site, your business site, and several other projects all under one plan. That's genuinely good value for the price. Once you purchase your hosting plan, you get access to something called cPanel, the control panel for your hosting account. This is your central dashboard where you manage everything. You'll see your active services listed, along with all the domains you've registered. The number of domains shown depends on how many you've added to your plan. In this example, the Medium plan has 4 domains registered, but the plan itself supports up to 10, so there's still plenty of room to grow. Whether you're building for a company, a personal brand, or a client project, you have the flexibility to add more sites without needing to upgrade right away. Accessing cPanel is straightforward. You can go directly from your hosting dashboard by clicking the cPanel button.
Alternatively, your hosting provider will send a welcome email containing your cPanel URL, your username, and a default password. You should log in and change that password right away. Once you're inside cPanel, you're ready to install WordPress and start building.
That email from your hosting provider is really important. Don't ignore it. It has everything you need to get into your cPanel for the first time. The default password is auto-generated, so make sure you update it to something secure as soon as you log in for the first time.
Now, let's shift to digital marketing channels. There are several key channels you need to understand: SEO, Google Ads, content marketing, social media, and ultimately an integrated strategy that combines all of them. These channels are broadly split into two categories: organic methods that take time but are free, and paid methods that deliver fast results but require budget.
SEO, search engine optimization, is what gets your website to the first page of Google without paying for ads. It's organic, meaning it grows naturally over time as you publish relevant content and optimize your site. Content marketing works hand in hand with SEO. You write business-focused, product-focused, and service-focused content that ranks on search engines and attracts visitors.
Google Ads is the fast-track option. If you want your website on the first page of Google today, not weeks from now, you run a Google Ads campaign, and it can rank immediately. The catch is that it costs money. You're paying for every click or impression. But for launching a product or testing a market quickly, it's extremely powerful.
The real power comes when you combine all these channels into an integrated digital marketing strategy. Instead of using just one channel, you analyze your specific business model and figure out which combination of SEO, paid ads, content, social media, and landing pages will give you the best return. The goal is to multiply your revenue 2 times, 5 times, even 10 times by using the right channels together.
Landing pages play a central role in this integrated strategy. A landing page is purpose-built for one goal, whether that's creating awareness, pitching a product, or capturing leads. You optimize it for SEO so it ranks organically, and you can also run paid ads directly to it using Facebook ads or Google ads. One page, multiple channels working together. That's the integrated approach in action.
Now, let's talk about how to actually evaluate a hosting provider before you buy. There are a handful of key things you need to check. It's not just about price. You want to look at disk space, bandwidth, how many websites you can host, email accounts, backup options, whether SSL is included for free, what server performance tier you're getting, and how good their customer support is. Let's break these down one by one.
Here's something that catches a lot of beginners off guard. A plan might be marketed as unlimited hosting, but when you actually read the details, you find it only allows you to host a single website. The instructor points this out specifically. The single unlimited plan does give you unlimited disk, data, and email, but it's still limited to just one site, so always read the fine print before purchasing.
When you compare hosting plans side by side, you'll notice something interesting. Most of the features are actually identical across tiers. Unlimited storage, unlimited bandwidth, unlimited databases, subdomains, email accounts, auto backup, free SSL, and Lightspeed servers. All of these are available even on the basic plan. The only real difference between the plans is the server performance speed, basic, fast, or turbo, so choose based on how much traffic and performance your site needs.
The instructor makes this point very clearly. Don't get distracted by all the features that look the same. The single deciding factor when choosing between plans is the performance tier. If you're just starting out, the basic plan is perfectly fine. As your traffic grows, you can upgrade to a faster tier.
Here's a really important insight the instructor shares from his own experience. He actually contacted the official support team of a hosting provider that advertised unlimited hosting and asked them directly. Their answer was eye-opening. They said it's not truly unlimited, but they manage it. What that means is, if you start running 4 or 5 live websites and consuming heavy resources, they'll step in and regulate your usage. So unlimited is more of a marketing term than a technical guarantee.
One of the features the instructor highlights is the free SSL certificate. SSL stands for Secure Sockets Layer, and it's what puts the padlock icon in your browser's address bar and changes your URL from HTTP to HTTPS. Without it, browsers show a not secure warning to your visitors, and that immediately destroys trust. Buying an SSL certificate separately can cost a significant amount, so getting it free with your hosting plan is a real benefit you should always look for.
The instructor makes a really practical point here about why server speed isn't just a technical detail, it's a business decision. If a potential customer clicks on your website and it loads slowly, they're gone. They won't wait. And in digital marketing, that lost visitor is a lost sale. That's why even when you're just starting out, you should think carefully about the performance tier of your hosting plan.
A fast, reliable server protects your conversion rate. The instructor shares his personal hosting recommendation based on his own real-world experience. He uses this provider himself and recommends it for 3 main reasons. It's very affordable, the customer support is excellent and responsive, and the overall performance has been solid. That said, he's very clear that this is a suggestion, not a requirement. There are many hosting companies in Nepal and globally. You should compare prices and features and choose what works best for you. The instructor is very direct about this. Avoid free hosting for any real project. He tried many free hosting options himself during his early learning days, and the problems add up quickly. You often can't access the backend properly. SEO configuration requires going into the terminal and running commands manually, WordPress doesn't work well, and adding custom code becomes a nightmare. For a professional website, especially when you're building for a client or for digital marketing, even a small, cheap paid hosting plan is a much better investment.
There's a common question about whether you can just use a static website on free hosting to avoid costs. The instructor addresses this directly. Yes, you can get Google to index a static site, and yes, you can do basic SEO, but it requires going into the server terminal and manually configuring things. It's slow, complicated, and limits what you can do. With WordPress on paid hosting, you get a one-click installer, full plugin support, proper SEO tools, and a much smoother workflow. For anyone serious about building websites or doing digital marketing, WordPress on paid hosting is the right choice.
Once you've purchased your hosting plan, here's what the workflow looks like. The hosting provider sends you an email with your cPanel URL, your username, and a temporary password. You log in, change your password for security, and you're inside your client dashboard. From there, you can install WordPress with a one-click installer. The instructor notes that different providers may have slightly different dashboard layouts, but the core process is identical across all of them. Before wrapping up this session, the instructor lays out exactly what's coming in the next class. Everyone is expected to have purchased their domain and hosting before the next session. From there, the class will cover WordPress installation, navigating the dashboard, selecting themes, installing essential plugins, building core pages like landing pages, using AI to generate content for your brand, and finally, a practical assignment where each student builds their own portfolio website. It's a full hands-on journey, and it all starts with getting that domain and hosting sorted. The instructor ties everything together with a really important point about why real hosting matters for digital marketing. Landing pages are built for awareness and sales pitches, and eventually you'll run paid ads on them, whether through Google or Facebook. But here's the thing, you cannot effectively run paid advertising campaigns pointing to a locally hosted or free hosted website. The results simply won't be trackable or reliable. To do real digital marketing and get real results, your website needs to be live on a proper paid hosting plan. That's the whole reason this setup matters. Let's talk about why free hosting platforms just don't cut it for real digital marketing work. The instructor has personally tried many of these: GitHub Pages, Google Sites, Blogger, and while they're great for learning the basics, they come with serious limitations. When you're doing real SEO and traffic analysis, you need proper data, and free platforms simply can't give you that. In fact, the instructor mentions having 29 to 30 blogs on Blogger alone, which shows just how much experimentation went into learning. But the key takeaway is this: experimentation on free platforms teaches you the mechanics, but it won't give you the real-world data you need to make meaningful marketing decisions. Here's a critical distinction the instructor makes: working locally on your computer versus working live on the internet. When you run your website locally, only you can see it. You get no real traffic, no real data, and no way to measure your SEO results. But when your site is live, you can track where visitors come from, what devices they use, their age range, and how they behave. And that's the foundation of real digital marketing. The instructor gives a very relatable example: someone who spent days writing content, then couldn't even find their own website on Google because large competitors dominated the search results. That experience of invisibility is exactly why going live with proper hosting matters. Without it, your SEO work produces no measurable outcome. When choosing a hosting package, you need to know exactly what you're getting. The instructor walks through the key features to look for: unlimited SSD storage, database access, cPanel for full control, 24-hour migration support, automatic SSL installation for security, auto backup so you never lose your work, and an auto installer to set up WordPress in just one click. Knowing these features helps you evaluate whether a package is worth your money. Of these features, 3 stand out as especially valuable for beginners. Automatic SSL means your site is secure without any technical setup. Auto backup means you don't have to worry about losing your content. And the auto installer means you can have WordPress up and running in minutes, not hours. These are the features that make a paid package genuinely worth it.
The instructor explains that hosting plans typically come in 3 tiers: Basic, Medium, and Pro. You can start with Basic and upgrade later as your needs grow. However, there's one important exception. If you're building an e-commerce site, the Basic plan may not have enough resources. For online stores, the instructor recommends starting at Medium or higher to avoid performance issues.
It's worth emphasizing this point about e-commerce. If your goal is to sell products online, starting with a basic plan can lead to slow load times and a poor user experience, which directly hurts your conversions and SEO rankings. The good news is that upgrading your plan is straightforward. You're not locked in. The only thing you can't easily change mid-year is your domain name. A student asks a great question. Should I register my domain under my personal name or my business name? The instructor's answer is clear. If you're running a business, use your business name. It builds brand recognition, establishes trust with customers, and is more useful for long-term marketing. Your personal brand can develop alongside it, but your primary online presence should reflect what you're actually selling or offering. The instructor makes a compelling case for thinking about hosting as an investment rather than an expense. For a relatively small amount, a few thousand rupees per year, you get a fully functional live website where you can publish content, run SEO campaigns, analyze traffic, and grow your audience. Compare that to paying for a physical course at an institute, where you'd spend far more and still need the same tools. The return on this investment, done right, is significant. The instructor draws a powerful analogy here. Just like you're motivated at a job because your effort produces a paycheck or an incentive, in digital marketing, your motivation comes from seeing real results: traffic numbers going up, keywords ranking, visitors engaging with your content. None of that is possible if your site only exists on your local computer. The live website is where your effort becomes visible. This is the complete digital marketing loop that the instructor describes. You start by writing content, publish it on your live website, apply on-page SEO to help Google find it, then analyze the traffic data that comes in. That data tells you who your audience really is, their age, location, device, and behavior. You then use that information to refine your buyer persona and improve your next piece of content. This cycle is impossible to complete without a live hosted website. Notice that this isn't a one-time process, it's a continuous loop. Every piece of data you gather from your live site feeds back into better content, better SEO, and a more accurate understanding of your audience. This is exactly why the instructor connects domain and hosting to the buyer persona concept covered earlier in the course. Real data from real visitors is what makes your marketing strategy sharper over time. To wrap up this session, the instructor leaves us with a clear message. Digital marketing is not something you can fully practice in a sandbox. A live domain and hosting setup is the foundation that makes everything else, SEO, traffic analysis, content strategy, and buyer persona validation, actually work. It's a modest investment that pays back through real data, real rankings, and real business growth. Start right, invest wisely, and let your website work for you.